Good morning, everybody. I'm Colton Pardell here at Suzanne's Custom Jewelers, and yeah.
Well, I'm Lottie Bartell. I am related to him, but apparently he's changed his name over the weekend.
Yeah,
How come I'm so red?
I don't know.
It was so funny.
I don't know. We should probably start over, but this one's live.
R out, you could be Indian. It'd be Patel instead of. Well, you said Partel, so. Go ahead, whatever.
Anyway, this is our part 3 of Do You Know What You're Buying, and hopefully we know what we're talking about.
We don't even know who we are.
Right? Okay. Anyway, we've covered a lot of the stones and stuff that have become kind of an issue over the last few years in the jewelry industry, and has been kind of more of a consumer problem, I guess, where some people have taken advantage of some situations where they shouldn't have, and taken advantage of some people that basically just lack of
didn't have an idea or clue that was a possibility.
Right. And so we wanted to cover one more kind of topic on this, and so we've talked about a lot of the stones that could possibly be a problem purchasing, or maybe a little bit more risky buying, I guess, if you're not buying from someone reputable or if you're buying online. But what we haven't talked about is actually the jewelry pieces themselves, the metals, how they're manufactured, what you can expect from them, and how to identify them. And probably one we've actually been dealing with a lot lately here in our store with repairs coming in has been with hollow jewelry, especially hollow chains. But it's not just restricted to chains. There's a lot of other pieces that can be hollow.
Mm-hmm. One of them is like earrings.
Mm-hmm.
There's some of these that if they were solid, I'm not sure you could actually wear them.
Yeah, they'd be weighty.
and now, since you brought that up, I can't think of what the Italians call that.
Electroform.
Yeah. So what they do
Real Italian.
Yeah. But they're the ones that kind of started it or
right.
invented it or whatever. So
right.
Some of these pieces that look like would weigh a half pound in one earring or whatever, they're actually hollow.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't see. Normally if you did that, somewhere along the line you'd have to have a hole.
Yeah.
And there's no hole.
Yeah.
So anyway, so if you wear one of those in two somewhere, we're basically welding on
air.
Yeah. So they're somewhat difficult to repair, more difficult than a solid piece would be.
Yeah, especially if they get dented.
Yeah, dented. Then it's almost an impossibility. It's not like you get a dent in the car that you can maybe pull out or you can fill.
Or even tap it out from the other side. It's a start over.
Yeah. That or I guess maybe what you could do is you could scatter dents so it looks like that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I don't know if that'd be a fun process either, because
no.
There's just it's a really thin layer of metal, and it's just some of that stuff gets to where it's almost impossible to work on, especially if it's been worn for a long period of time and it's seen a lot of wear. You get to where some of that is so thin you'd swear you could see through it.
Yeah.
And there's just not anything there to weld to, and we can weld on some really thin stuff with our laser, but some of this electroform and these hollow chains and stuff like that.
The hollow chains would be the more difficult. So, just kind of keep in mind, let's say, these chains are made with links, and so it's like maybe 2 connected links, and as you wear them, they rub back and forth. So all they have to do is go through that thin wall.
Yeah, and then you got problems.
Yeah, for the most part, air doesn't hold a whole lot. So.
No, and once it goes through one of those walls, it pretty much completely negates any strength and durability in that link because it's taken all of its structural integrity away.
Yeah.
And so then you have to worry about the chain breaking multiple times, multiple places, and they're extremely difficult to weld together, especially, again, showing a lot of wear. There's not much to weld to, so.
Right. And I'm sure there are some chains that are done that way that have heavy enough walls that they'll wear for a while, but for the most part, what we see, especially in rope chains, is that the chain may look fairly heavy, but the walls on those links are really thin.
Right.
And as soon as they wear through, I mean, it's extremely difficult for us to weld something when there's really not anything to weld to.
Yeah. The other issue gets to be with like a hollow chain especially is stretching and excessive wear with a pendant. We highly recommend not wearing pendants on hollow chains, especially these rope chains, and it seems like everybody that wants those big O chains, if they're wanting to get that look, then they're going to buy a hollow chain, and sometimes unknowingly they might buy a hollow chain, and sometimes that's not disclosed.
There's a lot of times.
Yeah, and sometimes that doesn't get disclosed by the one selling it if maybe they're not aware of it, or they forget, or they're just trying to make a sale, or something happens. And even buying online, it may not always be stated that it's hollow, and you get it in, you're like, oh, this is a nice chain. Feels a little weird, but it looks good. You can't tell that it's hollow or anything like that till it breaks or stretches or something like that.
Unless you're used to feeling gold, and that you drop a hollow rope chain in your hand. With us, it's like, wow, there's a feather just flew through the air or whatever. But I think there's a possibility that, a lot of people, if it's like 14 karat gold or 18 karat gold or even 10 karat gold, they'll say that it's solid gold.
Mm-hmm.
So the chain may be
gold, but it's not actually solid through.
But what they'll do is they'll actually say it's solid gold.
Yeah.
But it's solid.
It's all gold.
Hollow chain gold.
Yeah. It should say that it's like all gold, but it's hollowed.
Yeah. For some reason, it just seems like a lot of customers that come in are just shocked that it's a hollow rope chain.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, I guess, if you go in and you price a solid gold where the links are wire instead of tubing, and then you price a hollow rope
that has
chain,
the same look and size and everything,
if you could actually feel the difference. But the other thing is, it's actually more expensive to make hollow rope chain than it is, because it's difficult for them to do that and keep the
links from being crushed.
Yeah
It is. And because of the weight difference, the price doesn't necessarily reflect that it's more expensive to produce because it's a less expensive chain, but you've also got like half or even a third of the gold of what you would in a solid one. And so it does make a significant difference in the price, even though it is more expensive to produce that hollow chain. The other thing we run into, we've kind of talked about the hollow earrings and the hollow chain. There's also hollow pendants that have kind of the same issues as what the earrings do. But the one that really scares me when it comes in and we see it, and especially whenever they ask to do an alteration, is hollow rings. This is something that...
Let's back up just a little bit. He was talking about the hollow pendants.
Yeah.
We've also run into basically hollow pendants that basically have, I don't know what that stuff is in them, like a clay or something. So
they're filled.
They're filled,
but not with metal.
Yeah. So we see it a lot in or I've seen it a lot in like crosses and crucifixes and stuff that would normally be made solid gold, I guess, or whatever. And what they end up doing is it's almost like a hollow pendant, but they filled it with some other material. So then it gives you, you know, especially if they're selling this stuff by the gram or the pennyweight, you know,
it gives you a false expectancy of what you're actually getting.
So we run into that once in a while. That's a real surprise when you're repairing it.
It opens up and it's like, what is caked in here?
But the other problem is you know, you can't weld air.
No.
And we can't weld clay either. So when you get into one of those where you're doing some repair work and you got,
it's a mess. And
I just wanted to bring that up before we got too far away from it.
Well, and that actually kind of ties in with the rings, because that does happen with rings every now and then too. We see these rings that, especially ones that are bought online, some of the, you know, the jewelry you buy off of TV and stuff like that, which we don't see as much of that anymore, but it's still out there. Cruise ship jewelry, you know, some of that stuff that is bought outside of a traditional jewelry store, I guess. There is a high risk of running into some of those hollow rings, and sometimes you don't even know that they're hollow. But I tell you, when you cut into one of those to size it, it is not a fun surprise. Typically, those rings are going to look like they have a really big, heavy look to them, but you know, the feel is just not quite right. Sometimes there will be little tiny holes, like in the shank, to actually clean the ring out. Sometimes you can actually see back behind where stones are set or something like that, that there's maybe like a little gap in the top piece of the ring and then the inside, or the inside shank of the ring. And this is actually a pretty common practice with class rings. The tops are always hollow, but the bottoms are solid, which is fine. The ones that give us problems are the ones that are actually hollow all the way around. Fortunately, we don't see them a lot.
Or especially if the shank's hollow. I mean, if we
that's
got
what
to
I'm
go,
talking about.
if we got to go up or down, we're going to actually kink that.
It's not.
Again,
pretty.
it's like tubing. And that tubing is not necessarily going to bend equally.
Right.
So
one side's going to dent and the other side's going to kind of flatten. And it's not something that once that happens, it basically can't be repaired. The only thing that can be done is it
maybe
be replaced.
Just replace the whole shank.
So I mean, that kind of covers the hollow stuff that you might run into. The other thing we wanted to talk about was the metals themselves. There are some stamps within some of these jewelry pieces that are sometimes a little bit misleading if you don't know what they mean. And so we kind of want to shed a little bit of light on that. Probably one of the more common ones is 14K HGE. Heavy gold electroplate. And so what this is actually a plated piece of jewelry. And everybody sees that 14 karat and they're like, oh, it's a 14 karat piece of jewelry. Great. This really becomes a problem, you know, if you're buying something off of maybe some of the auction sites, or even like a marketplace page, or some of these apps where, you know, people are selling their jewelry personally. This is where you can run into one of these issues pretty much all the time. There's a lot of people
will look in the ring and they'll see the 14 karat.
And they're like, oh, it's 14 karat.
And then sometimes I've seen it where it's got the 14 karat, and then the HGE is kind of like blurry. I mean, it's like they're trying to camouflage. I mean, I think they somewhat stamped it like it's supposed to be, but you know, if you're not looking real close, it's well, it's 14 karat. And whenever they're new, they look good.
They do.
And have some similar weight characteristics to what it ought to be or whatever, but it's not gonna, that gold's not gonna last long because it's just plated on. It's a thin
it's
plate.
a very thin layer.
Even though they say it's heavy. I'm not sure how
what
much
constitutes
it has to be
that.
Heavy.
But it is something that is misleading. A lot of people will read that HGE and see it as like a maker's mark. or like a company stamp, something like that. But that's actually signifying that it's a heavy gold electroplate, so basically just a plating. The other one that you'll see in there fairly often is going to be like 14 karat or 10 karat GF, which is actually gold filled. This is a little bit of a step up from the gold plating, but it's still not solid gold. And a lot of people will actually misread that and see that as being, a solid gold piece.
Yeah, and if
Again, it has the same weight.
If it's done in the ring, we can't size that.
No.
We're going to end up, you're going to be able to tell it, and then there's a good chance we can't weld it anyways. But
yeah,
the other thing that I think that we've seen, maybe not as well, we have seen it actually this year, is and this seems like this happens more in chains and religious jewelry, is basically brass that's stamped 14K. So, if you get a really high polish on brass, you can almost make it look like gold.
Yeah.
And so, if it's like brand new and you buy it and it's stamped that, and
you have no reason to doubt it.
Yeah.
Weight's going to be fairly similar. I mean, it's not something that you could just hold it in your hand and tell the difference.
Right.
And sometimes, the stamp's either hard to find or it's kind of blurred like it is in the plated ones. Sometimes they may not be stamped at all, and they're just sold to you as gold. In the U.S., it is mandatory that all pieces actually be stamped with a purity mark if they are a precious metal.
Plus the manufacturers.
Yeah. And so if it doesn't have a stamp on there, there's a good chance that it's not a precious metal.
Right.
There is a possibility, however, that maybe it was a one-of-a-kind custom piece, maybe somebody designed.
That, or if it was a ring and it's been sized or something like that, there's a possibility that maybe
so that's not a
polished
guarantee that it's not, but that is something that should
something.
throw up a red flag to maybe get checked out. But unfortunately, that does happen sometimes where stuff is mismarked. Sometimes it's done intentionally, but the only way to be certain of it is know who you're buying from, and have a built trust and relationship with your jeweler. The other one that throws people, and especially if it's got stones in it, if it says 10 or 14 karat 1/20. This is actually a gold-filled piece, and a lot of people will see that 1/20. They think, okay, well, maybe that's carat weight or something like that. They don't really know. Everybody stops reading at the K, and so it's one of those deals that you got to kind of keep reading past that to see what the other letters and stampings are in there, because that may indicate what it is that you're actually buying. This one does kind of throw people a lot.
The other one, I guess, and maybe we don't see that quite as much because white gold or silver is more popular now than yellow gold, but sterling silver can be plated with yellow gold, and that's called vermeil. So we run into tennis bracelets that are basically sterling silver, but they look yellow. They look like yellow gold, but that's going to wear off somewhere along the line. That's actually difficult to replate.
It is. It's a multi-step process that has to happen in order for that to plate properly, but basically you have to remove all the other plating first and start over. Not easy to do.
No, because they basically did that before the stones were in there, and we'd have to do that after, or I guess we could pull all the stones and put them all back in, but
for a sterling bracelet or whatever it is, that's probably a little bit overkill. So those are some things you need to kind of watch out for. The only other one that I can think of right now off the top of my head is one that you're only going to really run into if you're buying silver jewelry and if it's stamped German silver. German silver is not actually silver at all, and so it's very easy to kind of get misled on that. But there are a lot of pieces out there, especially if you're buying some of these pieces off of some of the little like crafting websites.
So what is German silver? Is it tin and nickel?
Yeah, basically. And so if you're buying some of these, maybe handmade pieces and stuff like that, and they say that they're German silver, don't think of that as being a sterling silver or silver of any kind. That's actually basically it's a nickel alloy. And so it's got a lot of the same look and feel, but it has no precious metal value to it at all. So just kind of be cautious whenever you're buying some of that jewelry, but we definitely encourage you to find a local jeweler in your area that you trust and know and have a relationship with, preferably one that's got a firm background in the jewelry business and a lot of experience and education, and has also the equipment and the tools to differentiate some of these things, because we can sit and look at something all day long, but there's a lot of these pieces, if we don't have our testing equipment to really be certain, that it's even sometimes difficult for us to,
because a lot of this stuff is done to fool more than just the consumer.
Yeah.
So especially if you're looking at something on TV or on your monitor from your computer, or
right,
somebody's taking pictures and sent you pictures. I mean,
yeah,
it's amazing how much, I'm going to say, can be photoshopped or
even altered with just filters and stuff. Even in videos, I mean,
yeah,
they can filter it in such a way or manipulate the light in such a way to change the look of a piece, especially stones. Gemstones, we see this as being a huge problem, especially buying online. For one, you can line up like 5 monitors and hook it up to the same computer, and you're probably going to get a different color on each one. It may be a minor difference, but still, I mean, that can be a huge factor when purchasing something. Mm-hmm. So basically, it's just, in this industry, it's best to purchase, being able to hold it, see it, feel it, really inspect it in person. Any of this that's done, online or
almost like
messaging
like
or
whatever,
yeah, is just, unless there is some really, really, really good, solid policies where maybe it'll get sent to you to view or something like that, or exactly who you're buying from. Really, it's a lottery, basically, buying some of that stuff.
Because we've also experienced this. I think maybe I brought it up in some other.
Yeah, I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. We basically bought some rough opal, and the only way that we could tell it was the same piece that we were looking at is it had the same shape.
Yeah.
I guarantee you nothing else was right.
And so it was just light manipulation and stuff like that made the stone look and appear so much better.
There are some really good manipulators out there.
There are. So anyway, we definitely wanted to share this with you guys because, for one, we've seen this a lot over the years, but we've been seeing this as being a bigger problem more recently, especially with some of the stuff that we've been identifying for people, and also some of the repairs and stuff that have come in over the last several months, and some of the issues that customers have faced that weren't so happy about it. And so this is more of a preventative thing to help you guys have a little bit more knowledge and understanding of what it is that you're buying and what to look for when you're purchasing. So we hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you guys have any other questions about any of this stuff, please feel free to give us a call at 361-991-7565. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with some of your friends. And be sure to check out our YouTube channel and go and subscribe and hit the little bell so that you get notifications when we post new videos. If you'd like to see any of our jewelry or you'd like to talk to us in person, you can always stop by our store at Suzanne's Custom Jewelers, and we are located at 4226 South Alameda in the Town and Country Shopping Center right here in Corpus Christi. You can always visit us online at suzannes-jewelers.com and right here on Facebook. So we thank you guys, and we hope you had a wonderful weekend, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.